Hello, welcome to Windsor 411 Talk. I am so glad you joined us today. Today we're going to be talking with Earl Gardner. He is a friend of the family and has been for quite some time. And there's just so much to tell about Earl. I can't tell it all. Plus, I want him to be able to tell you the significant parts of his life. So, Earl, welcome to Windsor 411 Talk.
Well, thank you, Ida, and thank you for the invitation to be with you today and to share a little bit about myself and the work that I do. By day, you will find me working in the field of workforce development, working with individuals who are unemployed and underemployed, and working with those individuals who work closely with them to get them back into the workforce the best way that we can, either through very strategic job search strategies or training, or just basically brushing folks up a little bit to be sure that they're ready to go and to return to the workforce. By night, I'm a performing artist, so you will find me doing theater, you'll find me singing, you'll find me directing, and doing my best to contribute to the community in an arts way to help strengthen the community in what it is that we do.
Okay, I understand that you're going to be doing a performance later on this month. I believe it's the 20th?
The 20th of January.
Where's it going to be? Tell us a little bit about what it's about.
So, on January 20th, during the morning worship service at Faith Congregational Church, Terry and I will be doing a reenactment of a conversation between Augustus Washington and J.W.C. Pennington. Augustus Washington, for those who may not be familiar, was an African-American businessman who had a daguerreotype business. It was a photographic-related type of business in Hartford. Very successful, and one of the first African-Americans to have their own business in the city of Hartford. J.W.C. Pennington was pastor of the Talcott Congregational Church, later to become Faith Congregational Church.
Wow.
And he had an interesting life. And when we meet the two of them in this conversation, the year is 1853. And at this point, Augustus Washington has made a decision that he's ready to return to Liberia.
Okay.
He's pretty frustrated with how things are going for people of color in the United States. J.W.C. Pennington, on the other hand, Reverend Pennington, is for about doing what we need to do to fight for our rights as citizens, as people who are born here, that we ought to be able to enjoy the privileges of American citizens here in this country. So this conversation takes place, and we learn a lot about both Augustus Washington and J.W.C. Pennington and his background.
And so, how did you guys decide to have it at the church, other than Reverend Pennington is kind of connected with Faith Congregational?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So let me back up a teeny tiny bit to tell you that the conversation between Reverend Pennington and Augustus Washington was written by a wonderful writer by the name of Beth Gibbs. And she wrote this conversation for a project that had been funded by the Connecticut Historical Society.
Wow.
So, better than 20 years ago, that wanted to take a look at some of the, what we call the notable potables of African Americans within the Hartford and the greater Hartford region. And she did the research and did a wonderful job at crafting this conversation. The language is just absolutely beautiful. And the moments and the intensity is there. We are doing it on the 20th of January because this year marks the 200th anniversary for Faith Congregational Church. And for this year, we will be doing a variety of events, a variety of celebrations, a variety of conversations, a variety of historical moments during worship service to commemorate and celebrate not only the presence of Faith Congregational Church and its history going back, but also the value and contributions of the members that have been a part of this congregation and what they have contributed to the community.
And what do you want the congregation, the audience, to come away with as a result of these multiple conversations?
So, a couple of things. I think one of the things that's most important is to remember that the contributions of people of color to this community have been long and have been significant and have profound impact on what you and I are able to do today. And as a result of their efforts, as a result of their work, we are able to sit here and have this conversation and to celebrate what they were able to achieve back then.
Yes.
That's important. I think the other thing that's important is to remember to keep remembering, because we have a tendency to forget, and we have a tendency not to keep what those accomplishments were, those things that have been done, the successes. We don't always move them to the forefront of our spirit, the forefront of our souls, so that when we walk around these communities and we look at things and we do things, we remember that we do so with a special inheritance that comes from these people who have come before us.
Wow, it's pretty profound. Miss Gibbs, is she still around?
She is still around. She is happily still doing some writing.
She is.
Resides, I want to say that she's still in Bloomfield. I could be wrong, but I know that she has moved on to her second career. She's always had a passion for yoga, and as a result of that, teaches yoga every opportunity that she gets. So, and again, when we think about people of color, we don't think about people of color doing something as fascinating, as interesting as yoga.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Do you think Miss Gibbs will be at the performance on the 20th?
I hope so. I'm going to make every effort to reach out and let her know that her words are still alive and still breathing. They're still alive and breathing out of the mouth of myself and Terry, who've done this reenactment several times at several venues. And the wonderful thing about this is that theater is one of those things that once it leaves your lips, it leaves your lips.
Yeah.
You can't take it back. And so as this piece has aged, Brother Terry and I have aged as well. And our thinking and our consideration about Augustus Washington in light of events that have transpired since we first have done this,
Yes.
and about J.W.C. Pennington since I first did it, have allowed us to bring a different kind of grace to these two men. And so I'm excited about what's going to happen.
And I know you guys said back to Faith Congregation, you guys have done some other things. I know earlier in the year, November, you guys did something around Black migration, and Black migration is the Black History theme this year. So talk a little bit about that and how that came about.
Well, I think the idea of Black migration is understanding on many levels how we got from, for those of us who are residing in New England, how folks moved from the southern regions and western regions of the United States to here, and how we got to be here, and understanding what that journey looked like along the way, and understanding what happened once we got here, and to appreciate whether or not things really were that much more different up here than they were down there.
Wow.
And in some instances, what we've learned is that folks left down there and got here and realized we probably need to continue moving. And they continue to move up. And
Yes.
that's why we see such strong people of color communities in Canada and in Nova Scotia, and even in Alaska, because it just was like...
And abroad.
And abroad. There's got to be something different than what we're experiencing here.
I think, too, it's about, and I am a transplant from the South, and I guess my parents were part of that Black migration, is that we just got tired of fighting to be recognized as citizens of this country. And I don't want to get too far off in that, but I understand that you and Terry, and for those of you who are wondering what Terry is our camera person today. And so that's why he's not being interviewed. I'm going to try to get him to say a few words later. He's shaking his head, but I'm going to put some pressure on him because I think it's important that he sits alongside Brother Earl and just sort of magnify this message of Black history and how the two of you did this years ago when you were much younger men.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
But from what I understand, there's wisdom that comes with age. But having said that, I understand that you guys are going to be doing this at the Heritage Night on February 23rd in East Hartford, Connecticut at the Culture Center.
Yes.
Tell us about the importance and the origin of Heritage Night.
One of the things I think that it's important for the community who sees this to learn about Heritage Night is that where it started from and where it is today is different.
Yes.
When it started almost 20 years ago, it started out as a conversation between Terry and I, wondering how come when we looked at the north end of Hartford, there were no celebrations for Black History Month. None. And so we decided we would do something. And we just called folks that we knew and said, listen, we want to do something for the north end of Hartford because other communities, West Hartford, Newingtons, even Windsors, were doing things to celebrate Black History Month, but there was nothing going on in Hartford. So we did something, and we did it at the VFW, I believe, the first time. And then we moved it a couple of times after that to other venues. And then finally, with your help, we ended up in East Hartford at the Cultural Center. And after some further conversation, and I think this is important, it got changed to Heritage Night because the discussion was not about making it exclusively an evening of celebration about the experience by people of color. Because we understand that Black history is everybody's history.
Yes.
And that so as African Americans go, so as other people of color go, so goes this country. And so in order to enhance that celebration, the conversation turned to why not invite people of various heritages to come and share their stories and to share their experiences and to share their wisdom and their ideas. And that's how we've arrived at where we've arrived now.
And I think something too that's very unique about Heritage Night is that we recognize, you, Terry, recognize, and I like to think I took it to a different level and really started to highlight the importance of our multi-ethnic allies that helped us in this process, because without people from all ethnicities, it would have been more difficult for us. And they did it at great risk to themselves. Absolutely. And I think about what history records about John Brown of Torrington, Connecticut, and what he and his family sacrificed.
Sure.
What Prudence Crandall sacrificed. And Harriet Beecher Stowe to a certain extent. I think, again, we recognize the importance that we had allies, and we still have allies.
Absolutely.
And together we can make more of an impact in this community, and that is why we do it. The other thing that I also think is important, that the director of East Hartford Youth Services, Cephas Nolan, is very supportive of what we do, and he participates almost every year with that.
Yes.
And so I don't want that to go unnoticed. So for those of you who are interested in seeing Augustus Washington and Reverend Pennington, check them out on the 20th of January at Faith Congregation, and then come back and check them out again at the Heritage Night in East Hartford, February 23rd, which is a Saturday night at 6 o'clock. And the program is about an hour and a half. And I'm going to let Earl tell you again about Faith Congregation, and the program that's going to occur there on the 20th, the time and the address, because we want people to come out and be informed and entertained, because these two guys, this guy and that guy on the camera, they're good. They're very good. So, Earl?
So, thank you. So, again, this first conversation will take place during the morning worship service at Faith Congregational Church. That's 2030 Main Street in Hartford. The service starts at 10 o'clock. One of the nice things is that we are not long-winded. Okay, for those of you who
our churches have that reputation.
So it is a wonderful opportunity to come meet some new people, to be in a wonderful place that has some history tied to itself. And that's on the 20th. On the 21st, which is Martin Luther King celebration, also that's going to take place at Faith Congregational Church. That event will start at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Again, 2030 Main Street. We expect the superintendent of Hartford Public Schools to speak. We expect various guest speakers whose names escape me at this point. Lots of music, lots of food.
I'm there. For both of you, food
Please
and
come.
the music.
Yes, please come, please come, please come. We want to celebrate the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy, and to make sure that in all of our efforts as we move through every day, that we remember that every day is Black History Day.
Yes.
And every day is an opportunity for us to remember who we are and what we have contributed and what we can do to continue to make this society great.
And I have to ask one other thing. One of the things that's a little bit challenging for me, parking at Faith Congregation.
Sure.
Tell us of the process that can make it a little bit easier.
There is a parking lot in the back of the church that you access by going off of Main Street and going around the block to the back of the church. There is I can see it across the street. They allow us to use, one of the lodges allows us to use their parking. So
Okay.
you can park across the street there and then walk across the street.
There's a church across the street.
And there is
A cemetery.
And a cemetery.
Yeah, okay.
And if they are not doing something themselves, you're welcome to park there as well.
Okay. One other thing, and we are definitely coming to the end because we do want to honor your time. One of the things that I found a little bit disappointing, that a lot of our public schools are no longer celebrating Black History Month during the month of February. What are your thoughts about how that came about, and where did we as parents, as grandparents, drop the ball?
I think it's kind of difficult to speak for why school systems don't continue to incorporate this particular month into their curriculum. We can come up and we can sit and second guess. But I think what we can do proactively going forward, what we can do is to remember to have those conversations with our children, to have those conversations with our nieces and nephews and our grandchildren. I was sharing a story yesterday with a colleague and was sharing with them how one of the programs that I assisted with, when Black History Month came around, I would go to each of the classrooms and say to the students, I said, listen, Black History Month is coming. Please know that when I see you, I may ask you for a black fact. I want you to be able to tell me something, anything. And so one day I was in the hallway talking with another staff person, and a young man stood nearby waiting to speak with me. And when I asked him what he wanted to share, he looked at me and he said, Frederick Douglass. And I stood there and I waited, and I waited. And finally I said, so is there anything else that you wanted to tell me? And he said, I was supposed to tell you something else about Frederick Douglass? And I said, yes. So I looked at him and I said, here's what we'll do. I said, between now and the next time you see me, I'll give you an opportunity to find some information about Frederick Douglass. And when you see me, you share with me what you found. I have every confidence in you that you'll be able to do that. And when I went back and was telling the other staff about it, everybody laughed hilariously. They said, you know, he's not going to come back and tell you anything about Frederick Douglass. He's just going to go one ear out the other. Well, a week later, he catches me between classes and he goes, Mr. Gardner. I said, yes. He said, I have some black facts for you.
Oh,
said,
wow.
Yes. He said, Frederick Douglass. I said, yes. And he just ran it down.
Wow.
Name, the fact that he changed his name, the fact where he was born, all of his accomplishments. And I went back and said to the staff, when we believe in them, when we give them confidence and we trust them, and let them know that we look forward to hearing what it is that they have to say, they will rise to that challenge.
So you raised the bar.
I did.
And I think that is what we have to do. I really like what you said about the importance of teaching our children, our grandchildren, and any other little kid any other person who wants to know about the history, because perhaps it's too much to expect the educators to do
everything.
Yes. Any final thoughts other than wonderful talking to me?
Just to come out. Just remember every day to embrace who you are. Just remember to be thankful. And if you're a person of spirit, remember to thank you, whoever it is that you pray to, for this opportunity to be amongst wonderful people and giving you the opportunity to do good things. And so I look forward to seeing you on January 20th at the Faith Congregational Church in time for the morning worship, to see Brother T, as I call him, and myself take on this challenge of having a conversation as Augustus Washington and Reverend Pennington, and invite you again to come back the next night in the afternoon for the Martin Luther King celebration, again at Faith Congregational Church.
Dr. Martin Luther King.
Dr. Martin Luther King, thank you for
Took
the
him a
correction.
while to get that
Yes, it did,
title.
and we need to be sure that we celebrate that
Yes.
title.
Okay.
So, thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Windsor 401 Talk. I'm Ida Terry, and I look forward to seeing you next time